Hey guys, what's going on? Mark Lubensky, CEO of Sky Entrepreneurial LLC, Mark Sky's Entrepreneurial LLC, Enter Sky LLC, Enter Sky Inc., and a couple of other miscellaneous businesses. Today I'm going to be making a video on how to properly vet a bank to set up a business account. A lot of people don't understand this, but um, when you're setting up a business, and you obviously receive revenue coming in and out, there are a couple different things, and depending on the industry that you're in, that determine the type of a bank account that you need, and how I personally set it up to fund my real estate deals, and how that differs from property management and escrows and sales and stuff. So I'm going to be making a video on how I vet bank accounts and how I conduct business. I've only ever set up 2 other bank accounts um, with with my businesses before I filed my bankruptcy. So if you followed my channel, you understand that I recently my bankruptcy was discharged in what I just found out a couple days ago, actually in September of 2019. So I've seasoned my bankruptcy almost 2 years now. So that being said, the purpose of this video is basically to kind of show you how I vet business, how I vet banks on whether or not I'm going to do business with them, and then how I go through that process. So before I kind of get into that, I'm just kind of going to explain how I utilize banks and bank accounts and what the purposes are for them and how that helps me. So there are 3 major types of bank accounts in terms of business. It obviously depends, and they have derivatives or similar facets of ways of setting them up, but there's pretty much only 3. You have your general operations account, which is like an actual checking account. You have a savings account, which is for general operations, savings, whatever, probably more or less used for distribution of funds into the owners or investors' hands. And then you have trust accounts, which are for investors. They're for escrows in terms of buying and selling real estate. There are property managers use trust accounts because they handle other people's funds. Anytime you handle other people's funds, you technically need some sort of trust account. This can't be a general bank account. It cannot be a general bank account. And so what I personally do is anytime I handle investors' funds, I get a joint venture. They and I sign the joint venture. I opened a trust account in our name. We both pay for the fees simultaneously, and they put the money in there for me to use to purchase, say, a flip or a long-term hold or a buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat loan. Anything that I do with real estate when it comes to borrowing a partner's funds, and we do a JV, or even if they lend to me, I opened a trust account. I've only ever done it 3 times because I've only ever had 3 investors before that I did that with. The other ones brought the funds themselves to escrow, and they made the wires themselves because they didn't trust me with their money, which is totally up to them. But that's just typically what I've done. That's how I've handled things before. You don't want to put that in a normal operations account because it's not protected the same way a trust account is, and technically it's illegal to do that with somebody else's funds unless you're a nonprofit. And even then, I've never owned a nonprofit up until now. So I'm still working with the legal team to work out the logistics on how to properly set that entity up. I will be making a web series on how to do that a little bit later once I've educated myself on how to do that properly. But in the meantime, I don't give any advice on that because I don't understand it. And I'm not an attorney. I'm not your attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm simply an Arizona realtor that handles real estate sales transactions and property management. And I typically don't like to take on clients. So that being said, that's the disclaimer for the video. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. If you have any questions or concerns about what I'm doing in this video, please consult with your own CPA, attorney, proper professional. on how or what you should set up, especially if you're not doing real estate. Because what I'm doing is specific to a fix and flip wholesale buy and hold portfolio that will eventually convert into a syndication of holding funds temporarily or short term until I pay all of my investors off over a 7-year period, and then we'll eventually stop using other people's funds. So that's typically what I'm doing. So I'll tell you what I do. One of the first things first is I get a spreadsheet out. I make a list of 5. I come up with 5 credit unions within my local area. So if I operate in Arizona, I'm going to use Arizona Federal, Desert Schools, Navy Federal. I'll throw USAA in there. Sun Devil. There's like a Sundial or something like that. Credit union, and there's a couple other smaller credit unions that specifically specialize in business banking. And then after I've created that list, I'll go through and I'll give you an example here in a minute of what I look for in that institution on what their business accounts offer, what they require, how many transactions I have to have, do they waive fees, so on and so forth. And those are the things that I look for. I'll call them, sit down with them, get a free consultation. And then I do the same thing with another 5 banks, actual banking institutions, B of A, Bank of the West, which I think is actually a small regional bank, Chase Bank. There's a couple other banks that I can't think of the top of my head, Wells Fargo. But I have a list of like 7 or 8 that I review with them, and I kind of go through what they offer. And then I also look at stuff like Credit Karma's business banking accounts, online mobile app banking accounts and stuff like that. But I typically stay away from those because even though they may have, normal requirements like a personal bank account does, it's very difficult to transfer funds out. If I wanted to wire, say, 150 grand to close a property, that can be incredibly difficult at times, especially if they don't have someone on the phone or a customer service rep that I can call and make that shit happen. It's not easy. I've tried to do that with USAA, and because they don't have an actual operation center or legitimate bank, I can't walk into the bank and say, hey, I need to make a wire to this escrow account. Here's the information. Make this shit happen in the next 5 minutes because it closes at 2 and I'm here at 9 a.m. It's not easy to do. So that's personally why I like credit unions and banks, because I can walk into a branch and get the help I need. That's why I typically don't use online bankings, online only banks or app banks or stuff like Credit Karma or Money, which is through Intuit TurboTax or QuickBooks. So one of the first things I'll show you what I look for. This is Navy Federal. I have had a business banking account with them. It's great because they're military friendly. Every time I go in there, they're always asking me what I'm doing. I've gone in there and pulled out $20,000 fucking cash. And all I have to do is call them the day before and say, hey, I need to come in. I need to get cash. I'm paying this person in cash today for a specific thing. And they'll when in the morning when they receive cash from their Brinks or whatever just gives them cash, they'll make sure that they have 20K plus on hand specifically for me. So that's typically what I look for in a bank. That's one of the many things, is how much money can I have in my bank account, which you wouldn't think is a lot, but I mean, when you're working with investors that have upwards of $3 or $4 million, sometimes you would be surprised, but most banks have a daily limit of 250K. That because it's not common, you wouldn't know until you actually call them and say, hey, I need to be able to withdraw or transfer or wire $1.7 million to this escrow company to close on this commercial property. Is that something you can do? And then say, no, sorry, we can't do that. Try again. And then you're fucked. I have been there. I have done that, and it sucks. I found out that they have specific stipulations, and I think they stop at like 1.5 million. Otherwise, you get stuck. And the reason that is because I forgot there's a specific federal agency that anytime you transfer money from your bank account to another, it typically runs or funnels through that entity, that federal agency. I think it's like OCOCA or OFOCA or OFA or something like that. It's an F. There's an F, a U, and an A in it. I don't remember specifically what it is, but basically it's a FBI list basically for banks. They go through, they say, okay, is this person a criminal or unknown criminal? Are they laundering money? And then they conduct a quick investigation. They can hold your funds for as long as they want. They don't have to tell you what they're holding your funds for, and then they can distribute it. There have been tons of books. If you've read the Syndicating is a Bitch book, he actually, one of the first things he talks about in his books, like within the first or second or third chapter, is how his first deal was put on hold, or one of his deals was put on hold because of the entity that he was, or the business that he created was actually a criminal's name that he didn't actually know. And conveniently enough, that federal organization held his funds until they realized it was an LLC and then dispersed it eventually the following Monday. So keep that in mind. So this is something that I look up. Credit and savings. They have it in here somewhere. I'm just going to move this real quick. So the thing I like about Arizona Federal is, or Navy Federal, is that they are military related, and they do businesses and stuff. They do service businesses. Like I said, I've set up a business banking account before. Super, super, super easy. You go in there with all of your corporation documents. It takes them like 3 days to set your bank account up, and then they send you a debit card in the mail. You're not gonna get that stuff set up overnight, so don't expect it to. It took me a week to get the information. So this is one of the things that I look for. This is what I wanted to point out. So there is a no monthly service fee. They allow 2 signers. So if you have multiple businesses or multiple people running your business, or two special agents signing for your business, it's not going to work. It's for new businesses, which means that they're cheaper, a lot better. Limited cash flow activity. So for someone like me that's maybe moving $20,000 to $30,000 a day, probably the best decision is the business checking account. I don't really give a shit about the APY. It's not important. And so these are the things that I look for. You know, how much money do they expect? Do they limit me to every day in terms of transactions? What are their limited transactions? How do they care about my cash flow? How easy is it for me to go online, request a different bank account, label it taxes, and put all of my taxes in there? Simple stuff like that. And then they have an easy debit. I can't tell you how many times I've shredded my debit cards by accident and just walked into a branch and gotten a new one. They also have money market accounts for your business, certificates for your business. So this is the kind of stuff that I look for, specifically no monthly service fees, and then the charges schedules. This is important because you need to know specifically how much money it's going to cost you to open this account, how much money they expect to have, how much money you have to have in the bank account at a minimum to maintain the account. This company requires $700, or it's $800 total. For a business account, you have to have $500 minimum in the account, and for a savings account, you have to have a minimum of $300. Otherwise, they close the account down. And I think you have to make transactions like 1 or 2 a month. Otherwise, they close it down for inactivity, because it does actually cost them money to maintain your account. So keep that in mind. And so these are the types of fees that they require or they charge. So keep in mind of these fee schedules and the types of business schedules they are, expenses they do and stuff. For me, when I'm purchasing real estate, and it takes me about 30 to 40 days to close on a property, due diligence and all, at least on residential stuff. And I have maybe 3 to 4 transactions going on in a month uh, because of contractors and closes and stuff. Business checking account at US or Navy Federal would be great. So that's just what I'm looking for. Another thing that you want to check as well, and I'll show you this on Chase Bank. I ran into this the other day. As soon as it searches, they also offer sign-up bonuses. So Chase Bank right now is offering new customers, new business customers, $300 to sign up. I applied online and they still told me I had to come back and apply in person because I'm a new business. So I'll show you why I don't want to work with this company. And it's not working. Cool. Not what I wanted. That's okay. So some of the advantages of opening a business bank account with companies like Chase or even Navy Federal are actually their credit cards. So you wouldn't take this into consideration when you're just opening a bank account, but long term, it's important to have credit because for the same reason you purchase a house personally, the more you can put on the bank to hold allows you a much more affordable opportunity to increase your cash flow. So what that means basically is if I'm purchasing a home to invest in and it makes me $1,200 a month in cash flow, and after my mortgage and all of my expenses, I'm bringing in $300, and I only put that's $300 a month, which is $3,600 a year in passive income, which is great on something like a duplex because that's $150 a door. And that's incredibly uncommon. But the way that it works, and this is how you should think about it when opening a bank account, which is silly, I know, but bear with me. If I'm making $3,600 a year and I only put $3,600 down on a $300,000 home, right? That's only 10%. That's a little over 10%. I think that's 12-ish percent, if I'm not mistaken. So I put 12% down on a house. And in that first year, I put $36,000 down. In that first year, I made 10% of my initial investment back. So I'm basically making with $36,000 down, receiving $3,600 in passive income or positive cash flow. I'm basically receiving a 10% return on my initial investment of $36,000. So a bank's going to see that and say, okay, this guy can make $36,000. Maybe we could jump in and earn 7% to lend him a mortgage, so he can still earn his 10% increase, but we'll earn 7% for the next 30 years that he has an asset, right? So it's a financial opportunity for the business, for the business that's lending you the money to gain. And the way that they do that is lending you a mortgage at an annual percentage rate, lending you credit, giving you portfolio loans, giving you asset loans to purchase vehicles. To them, they earn their money based off of lending you money. That's predominantly how most businesses in the banking industry produce revenue, is through lending. So that's why you're always getting credit cards in the mail. That's why you're always getting offers to purchase homes. That's why you're always getting offers to refinance. It's because the businesses that lend you the institutions that lend you those funds actually receive a source of income. and they typically hold on to that debt for up to 5 years, and anywhere between 6 months to 5 years, and then they turn around and they sell it to the secondary market, where they recoup their initial investment and then redo it. So keep that in mind. And opening a bank account isn't just allowing you to have a source to put your money, or a piggy bank to put your money in and receive an APY. It's actually a place for you to build accreditation in combination with triple B and your performance as a business owner. So this is going to give you an opportunity to build business credit. It's going to give you an opportunity to get loans, to get merchant services. And so that's one of the things that I look at too is in a bank is, what do they offer? What are their credit cards like? How long do I have to bank with this business before they'll give me a credit card? How much money do they want to see in my bank account before they'll give me, say, $10,000 of credit? So that's something that I look at too. One thing that I was looking at the other day when I was looking to open a bank account with Chase was what their requirement is for how much money you have to have in your account and what they charge. So different businesses charge a different amount of money depending on the account that you open. Like I said, you have to have a minimum amount of money coming in and out of your bank account. You have to have a minimum amount of money that you have in your bank account at all times. Otherwise, they charge you. You can't just have a zero balance and then expect to never get charged a fee for it, or never receive revenues and then just use it as a normal banking account. They actually charge you significantly more than they would for a personal account, because you're a business and because you're claiming to do some form of business banking. So they expect you to have revenues, they expect you to have expenses, they expect you to have several accounts. And so what I was looking for was their checking minimum daily balance. So for this one, it's a $15 or zero monthly service fee. There is no monthly service fee if you meet one of these requirements. So basically, if I put $2,500 in there and I leave it in there and I don't make any purchases, I'm fine. If I deposit $25,000 in merchant transactions because I'm selling T-shirts on a monthly basis, I'm fine. There's another one in here that's not listed, but if I have a private account with them in my personal name, I don't have to worry about it. Another one that they don't list here is if I'm in the military or I'm a veteran, I give them my DD-214. They won't charge me a minimum fee either, and they won't require me to make consistent transactions because I'm in the military. So for me, that actually makes sense to do something like this because of all of the things that they offer. And this is probably the account that I'll end up opening if I can get them to not charge me the $15 service fee and they just let me leave the $2,500 that I wanted to leave in the bank account until I actually start moving money around with my investors. So that's something that you should take into consideration too, is stuff like this, their stipulations. It's important to know what their stipulations are and what they require, how many transactions they allow, if they charge you on transactions, how do they send money, how quickly do they have the wires, are they open 24/7, their customer service, all of that stuff. It's important. What do they require if long term you want to get a credit card? What are the credit cards that they allow? Do they do CDs? Do they lines of credit? Do they do lines of loans or loans? See, what do they offer? How much money do you have to have in your account? Do they look at personal credit? Do they look at business credit only? Can I just open this as soon as I open a bank account? Stuff like that. It's very important to understand the direction of your business and where you're going. Do they have stuff like this? This is important. If you're like me and you buy real estate in other states that you live in, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the plane. So purchasing my plane tickets on a rewards program that I could use to redeem for a free flight every year makes sense to me. So keep that in mind when you're opening a bank account. That's pretty much all I want to talk about in this video. Once I set up my bank account, I will touch base on this topic again after I've listed myself with the triple B and all that stuff, and I've started receiving revenues. I will have a later video, probably within the next 3 to 6 months, because of military obligations. I will be taking a break from conducting or setting up my business and conducting actual business. So with that being said, that's all for this video. If you have any questions, reach out to a banker. Obviously, take what I said into consideration. Call a couple of banks, get an idea of what they offer, have them sell you, but take into consideration too that it is a sales pitch, and only you can make your decision for yourself. Obviously, anything I say in my videos, you should speak to an attorney or CPA that's going to represent you and have your best interest at heart. I'm just a YouTuber, and I'm just setting up my own business specific to my own needs, and I have a lot of the knowledge prior to doing this because of my college degrees and personal experience. So don't take anything I say to the end of the world. That being said, hope you guys have a good day. Hope this stuff is helpful for you. Peace.